My name was Khalid. I was a professor of Islamic studies at Oxford, steeped in a world of tradition and strict adherence. Respected, yes, but inside, I felt a haunting void. A suffocating silence cloaked my prayers, as if my words simply vanished into an abyss. A shadow grew within me, feeding my doubt and discontent, whispering truths I was never brave enough to confront. The walls of the mosque echoed with teachings, but deep down I sensed an unyielding emptiness. I stood at a crossroads, facing a faith that no longer filled my spirit, burdened by dogmas I had once embraced. Then came that moment, the moment of collapse. In my darkest hour, I teetered between life and death, and that's when everything changed. As I was pulled into a blinding light, I encountered the one I had never truly known, Jesus. He didn't come with arguments or doctrines. He brought a revelation that pierced through the darkness I had lived in. In that divine presence, I understood a cosmic battle, an unseen war against the powers that bind our souls, a struggle that transcends the individual and taps into the very fabric of our reality. When I returned, the weight of this truth threatened to crush me. Labeled a heretic, surrounded by a community I once called home, I grappled with guilt and isolation. But deep inside, the fire of a newfound purpose ignited. I couldn't silence the call to share this incredible encounter and to warn others of the snares laid by a twisted spiritual agenda. So join me as I unfold this journey. A story of awakening that spiraled from the echoing halls of a university mosque into a fight for freedom and truth. You too may discover the light that can shatter your own darkness. But first, where are you watching from? Leave a comment below and let me know the time. And if you love Jesus, don't hesitate. Subscribe to Truth from Beyond so you don't miss out on the revelations yet to come. Together, we can embark on a quest for spiritual freedom. The atmosphere at the mosque within Oxford University was thick, with the weight of tradition and respect. I'm Dr. Ibrahim Khan, a professor who has spent my career not only teaching but also immersing myself in the rich depths of Islamic knowledge. Yet, as I engaged with students and peers, I often felt a silent storm brewing inside me. An urgent longing for a deeper spiritual connection that went beyond the rigorous adherence to doctrine. Despite my outward confidence, I frequently grappled with an unsettling sense of emptiness that haunted my nights, leaving me pondering the very essence of my faith. On one particularly somber evening as I stood in prayer, I felt that void widen. As I recited the familiar verses, their meanings began to blur and doubt crept in. Was I merely going through motions, reciting words devoid of understanding? The air, once thick with reverence, felt heavy with unspoken fears, and my heart raced as my mind spiraled into the depths of questioning. It was in that vulnerable moment, surrounded by the echoes of devotion, that my world shifted dramatically. I suddenly lost consciousness. Something took over me, and I was enveloped in darkness. In that vast emptiness, I felt both terrified and strangely liberated. Just as I accepted the void, a light began to break through the darkness, growing brighter and more radiant with each passing second. It was in that light that I saw him, Jesus, a figure of profound compassion and understanding. His presence filled me with a warmth that surged through my body, calming my rapidly beating heart. In that moment, he called my name Ibrahim, and everything else faded away. The revelations that followed were staggering. Jesus revealed to me the hidden agendas that twist the fabric of society and keep people in chains. How the elite manipulate beliefs and feed on division to maintain control over the masses. I witnessed the global landscape of a spiritual war that rages behind the scenes, where people's doubts and fears are weaponized to create chaos. I understood that those who challenge the status quo often face immense pushback, a fear that had kept many, including myself, in silence. The truth I saw was piercing. It unveiled the deception hiding beneath the surface of everything I had known. As the light began to dim and I felt the gravitational pull toward my physical body, I was overcome with urgency. I awoke in that same mosque, heart racing and mind swirling with the weight of these revelations. My calling was clear. I needed to share what Jesus had shown me. Yet I also felt the gnawing fear of isolation. What if my community rejected me? Would they view me as a traitor to our faith? Despite the dread, I understood that the fear of rejection paled in comparison to the importance of awakening those around me. I had to speak. I had to rise as a beacon of light, guiding others toward their own truth. As I began to navigate this new path, I sensed that my life would forever be defined by my willingness to confront the deception and stand firm in the transformative truth I had encountered. As I stood in front of my class, imparting the knowledge I had spent years mastering, I couldn't shake the profound emptiness that gripped my heart. My name is Khalid Ahmed, a 35-year-old Islamic studies professor at Oxford University, respected in my community and well-dressed in my traditional attire. Yet beneath this respectful exterior lay a turmoil that haunted my every waking moment. While my mind was immersed in the teachings of our faith, my spirit felt trapped in a cycle of despair, caught between my religious devotion and a yearning for a spiritual connection that eluded me. Each lecture, while rich in history and culture, often felt like a performance, leaving me unfulfilled and questioning the very essence of my beliefs. The more I delved into scripture, the more I felt an urgency to connect with something deeper, to engage with the divine in a way that transcended routine practices. My prayers, once a source of comfort, began to feel like obligations, rituals prescribed by custom rather than meaningful dialogues with God. This growing disillusionment led me to moments of isolation, where I pondered the purpose of my existence, feeling increasingly disconnected from my own community. One evening, after a particularly draining day, I sat alone in my small office at the university, grappling with my thoughts. Just as weariness began to settle in, a wave of dizziness washed over me. I collapsed into darkness, finding myself enveloped in a void that felt both terrifying and strangely liberating. There, in the profound stillness of that space, a brilliant light emerged before me, and with it came the unmistakable presence of Jesus. His figure radiated warmth and peace, instantly dispelling the darkness that had consumed my spirit. Khalid. He spoke, and the sound of my name reverberated within me, stirring a sense of recognition that transcended time and space. In that moment, everything I had ever known began to dissolve. Jesus revealed to me the hidden agendas that manipulated society's beliefs, how the elite maintained control through fear and deception. I experienced visions of a world divided, wars fought not just on battlefields but within the hearts and minds of every individual. The realization that this spiritual war has kept so many of us shackled to ignorance and resentment struck deep. I felt a sense of urgency build within me, a responsibility to seek out and share the truth I had stumbled upon. As the light began to envelop me even more, I witnessed the struggles of humanity reflected in the fight for genuine connection and understanding. Jesus spoke of how many people, including those I cared about, remained trapped in cycles of doubt because they lacked the courage to challenge what had been taught to them. The awakening he spoke of was urgent. It required us to step beyond the confines of tradition and embrace a more profound love that transcends religious and cultural boundaries. I understood that my journey was not solely for myself, but a call to action, to guide others toward their spiritual awakenings and to reveal the love that Jesus embodied. Suddenly, I felt a pull back to my physical body, the warmth of Jesus's presence fading as I awoke back in my office, a mix of emotions swirling within me, ranging from fear to elation. I had been touched by something divine, yet the path ahead felt daunting. How could I reconcile these revelations with the expectations of my family, my colleagues, and my community? The weight of this dual existence pressed heavily on my heart. But as I gathered my thoughts, I realized that the truth I had encountered could not be silenced. I resolved to stand firm in my beliefs, and, regardless of the potential backlash, I would share my story. The journey had just begun, and the awakening I experienced was not just for me. It was a beacon of hope for anyone lost in the shadows of deception, yearning for the truth. As I knelt in prayer, I felt an unusual heaviness in my heart. My name is Khalid Ahmed, a professor of Islamic studies at Oxford University. For years, I've immersed myself in the teachings of my faith, guiding students through the intricacies of our beliefs. Yet lately, something felt profoundly off. The words I recited during my prayers echoed back at me, lost in a silent abyss that made me question their significance. Each supplication, once a source of comfort, had become a reminder of an increasing void within me. I struggled against the creeping sense of despair that lingered in the background of my mind, urging me to confront the doubts I had buried deep inside. Late at night, I found myself haunted by dreams of an incredible light that beckoned me from beyond the shadows. In those dreams, I felt an overwhelming sense of hope and connection that was missing in my waking life. The light was not just a symbol. It represented everything I yearned for: understanding, love, and a deeper spiritual connection. But as dawn broke and reality set in, I woke up feeling just as empty as before. I battled with the conflict between my observations and the traditions I was raised in, grappling with the idea that my faith was merely a facade that prevented me from experiencing genuine spiritual fulfillment. In my quest for answers, I began to explore religious texts and writings outside my own tradition. I felt driven to discover the common threads between our beliefs, and to understand if others too felt this oppressive silence in their hearts. In moments of quiet, I allowed myself to question everything. What if the teachings I had toiled over were mere echoes of a hidden agenda, a manipulation by the elite to keep us from embracing the deeper truth that lay beyond? This internal dialogue sparked a spiritual war within me as I weighed the cost of questioning my faith against the potential of awakening to something far greater. Then, one particular night transformed everything. As I drifted into a state that felt both familiar and surreal, the darkness around me began to shift. Suddenly, I was standing before Jesus, bathed in warmth and light. "Khalid," he said, and hearing my name felt like a gentle reminder of unconditional love. In that sacred moment, he began to reveal the truths that had been obscured from my understanding. I witnessed the manipulation of beliefs, how fear was wielded as a weapon to keep people divided. The spiritual war was not just a personal struggle. It extended beyond individual hearts, affecting society at large, leading to the wars and divisions that plagued our world. Jesus spoke of deception, shedding light on the societal dynamics that caused alienation and conflict. I realized that many of us are trapped in cycles of detrimental belief systems designed to silence our voices and keep us from experiencing true connection. The urgency of his message pierced through the fog of confusion that had surrounded me, igniting a fierce determination to awaken not only myself but others who felt similarly lost in the shadows. I understood that this experience was a call to action, a summons to rise above fear and to embrace the truth that had been laid bare before me. As the vision faded and I returned to my senses, a powerful resolve surged within me. The journey of awakening was just beginning. I was overwhelmed by the knowledge that my mission was no longer just a personal exploration, but a responsibility to guide others toward their truths. Though the path might cost me dearly, relationships, acceptance in my community, the pull to share these revelations was too strong to deny. The spiritual war was now not just within me but around me, and I was determined to stand firm in the truth, ready to help others navigate their paths to liberation. The weight of this commitment filled me with both trepidation and deep-seated courage as I prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead. It was during a particularly arduous week of teaching at the university that everything I thought I understood began to unravel. My name is Khalid Ahmed, a professor of Islamic studies at Oxford, dedicated to sharing the wisdom of our faith with my students. Yet, hidden beneath my carefully constructed facade of confidence, I struggled with an emotional turmoil that was growing harder to suppress. The pressure to conform to the expectations of my colleagues and community felt suffocating, and I found myself slipping into a void of despair. My prayers had become mechanical, devoid of the heartfelt connection I once cherished. One evening, as I sat in my office, the culmination of stress and isolation pushed me over the edge. I felt a well of darkness enveloping me as I clutched my chest, overwhelmed by despair. Suddenly, my vision blurred, and I fainted, plunging into a profound silence that felt both terrifying and oddly liberating. In that moment of unconsciousness, I drifted through a dark expanse until a magnificent light appeared before me, brighter than anything I had ever seen. It pulled me toward it, and I felt an undeniable sense of peace wash over me. When the light settled, I realized it was Jesus standing before me, his presence radiating love and understanding. Khalid. He called my name gently, and the sound reverberated through my being, immediately dispelling the darkness that had consumed me. In that sacred encounter, revelations began to unfurl. Truths about the hidden agendas that divide us and the spiritual war that rages both within and around us. Jesus showed me how the elite manipulate beliefs, controlling narratives to maintain power over the masses. I had always perceived my faith as a secure anchor, but now I understood it could also be used as a weapon against us, fostering ignorance and fear. The deception ran deep, intricately woven into the fabric of our society. The urgency of what Jesus conveyed fueled a fire within my soul. I began to see the world through a different lens, recognizing the civil unrest, the social divisions, and the conflicts perpetuated by those in power. It became apparent that my struggle was not merely personal, but part of a larger, dire reality, a truth that so many people, including my students, were yearning to awaken to. I could feel the power of my voice growing, the weight of my responsibility echoing in my heart. The revelation I experienced was a clarion call, urging me to rise and speak out against the oppressive structures that stifled genuine connection and understanding. As the vision faded, I felt a tug back to my physical state, awakening in my office with an intense clarity washing over me. My heart raced as I realized the magnitude of my encounter. The fear I felt was countered by an undeniable resolve. I knew I had to act. But I also knew the risks. Sharing these revelations would surely lead to conflict with my colleagues and potentially sever ties with my family. The thought of being branded a heretic, of facing ridicule for daring to challenge the very foundation of my beliefs, both terrified and galvanized me. I could no longer remain silent about the truths I had learned. The journey ahead loomed ahead, filled with uncertainty, but my commitment to awakening others became an undeniable force driving me forward. I envisioned a community where open dialogue could flourish, a place where the truth could illuminate the shadows of ignorance. I began to seek out others who felt the same sense of discontent, connecting with those who, like me, were caught in a struggle between tradition and the desire for something more profound. Together, we could confront the deception that has held us captive for far too long, forging a new path that promotes understanding, love, and spiritual liberation for all. When I awakened from my encounter with Jesus, the world around me felt drastically altered, yet the familiar weight of my past remained heavy on my heart. My name is Khalid Ahmed, and as a professor at the University of Oxford, I had spent years teaching Islamic studies, immersing my students in the rich tapestry of our faith. Yet now, I found myself marked as a heretic by those I had once called friends and family. The backlash was immediate and painful, a stark reminder of the societal barriers that had guided my life until that moment of revelation. The very doctrines I had upheld seemed to crumble as the truth burdened me with guilt and loneliness. Upon returning to my life, faces I once trusted now reflected disappointment and anger. Voices that had once shared in my triumphs now accused me of betraying my faith. I felt the pangs of isolation grow deeper, as if an impenetrable wall had risen between me and the world I had known. In every interaction, I sensed the weight of their judgment. My heart ached as I tried to explain the astounding truths I had encountered, the messages of love, awakening, and understanding that Jesus had revealed to me. But rather than comfort, I encountered accusations of deviation from the path. As the days turned into weeks, the emotional turmoil became unbearable. I found myself questioning whether the price of awakening was worth the loss of my community. In those moments of reflection, I was haunted by the fear of failing to reconcile my new beliefs with the identity my family had instilled in me. My solitude deepened as I roamed the halls of the university, surrounded by students eager for knowledge yet unable to share my truth. The spiritual war that unfurled within me mirrored the challenges faced in society, a struggle against manipulation and deception designed to maintain control over those yearning for deeper understanding. In search of solace, I turned to the scriptures I once held dear. Each verse seemed to resonate with a new clarity as I sought to bridge the gap between my former beliefs and my emerging consciousness. The stories within those pages began to highlight the misinterpretations that contributed to the hidden agendas I had witnessed in society. I saw how fear perpetuated cycles of obedience, how the elite utilized our devotion to incite division and maintain their grip on power. Recognizing this manipulation filled me with both urgency and responsibility. I understood I had to share what I had learned, despite the fearful whispers that urged me to remain silent. As I navigated this spiritual turmoil, I also found unexpected support among others who had embarked on similar journeys. In online communities and private groups, I discovered individuals who understood my plight and had also faced the backlash of their own awakenings. Sharing our experiences became a powerful lifeline, knitting together a new community built on the foundations of truth and understanding. Each story shared served to reinforce the necessity of standing firm against the deception that had long obscured the way forward. Yet, even amidst this camaraderie, the longing for acceptance from my family remained, a persistent ache that drove me to hope for reconciliation, while I relentlessly pursued my mission of spreading the enlightening truths I had discovered. In the stillness of the night, I found myself alone with my thoughts, feeling the weight of my convictions pressing down on me like an anchor that refused to let me rise. My name is Khalid Ahmed, a professor of Islamic studies at Oxford University, deeply rooted in my faith, yet grappling with an insidious emptiness that had begun to erode my spirit. Ever since my encounter with Jesus, I felt an insatiable urge to seek out deeper truths, but each discovery came with the terrible price of risking everything I had built, a life intertwined with my family and my community. Under the cloak of darkness, I began to explore the Bible, tracing my fingers over the words as if their shadows held secrets meant only for me. Each passage I read echoed in my heart, resonating with the truth I had sought for so long. I subscribed to channels that shared testimonies from those who had also faced the backlash of embracing an awakening, realizing I was not alone in my journey. These accounts ignited something within me, hope that perhaps I could transcend the confines of my upbringing, yet the fear of losing my previous life loomed over my head like a storm cloud. Each video shared stories of both enlightenment and isolation, weaving an intricate tapestry of courage and doubt. I craved the comfort of community, so I ventured into small gatherings of others who had experienced similar transformations. It was in these sacred spaces that I started to find peace. Surrounded by fellow seekers, we discussed the spiritual war that rages around us, a battle for truth in a world marred by deception. I listened to their stories, and with each shared revelation, I felt the chains of my limitations begin to loosen. The warmth of their understanding enveloped me, offering a stark contrast to the feelings of estrangement I bore in my daily life. There, amidst laughter and tears, I felt a flicker of hope ignite within my heart, a possibility that this awakening could lead us toward a more profound truth. Still, in the quiet corners of my mind, the fear of loss gnawed at me, a relentless whisper reminding me of the familial bonds that could shatter if I exposed my new beliefs. I engaged in heartfelt prayers to Jesus, pleading for guidance and strength. "Help me navigate this journey," I would cry out. "Help me remain true to the revelations while holding on to my family." My heart ached for the understanding that seemed just out of reach. Would my loved ones ever come to accept my spiritual awakening? Or would I face their rejection? The thought both terrified and motivated me. In that silence, I wrestled with the burden of knowing that I had stepped into a larger narrative, a story that interconnected my personal mission with the collective awakening of others. I felt compelled to share the message of love and acceptance Jesus had given me, even if it meant risking everything I held dear. My journey had transformed from personal exploration into a fight for the truth, and I could no longer afford to remain quiet. I knew that the path ahead would not be easy, but in the depths of my prayers I felt Jesus urging me forward, assuring me that each step taken in truth would lead not only to liberation for myself, but for those still struggling to find their way amidst the darkness. In the weeks following my encounter with Jesus, I could no longer view my experience as merely personal transformation. It transcended my own awakening. It was a divine calling that beckoned me to bear witness to the truth I had found. I'm Khalid Ahmed, a professor of Islamic studies at Oxford University, and I spent years educating others about our faith, yet this new knowledge urged me to break the silence surrounding my revelation. The deeper I delved into the truth, the more I felt compelled to share my story, to warn others of the spiritual warfare we confront every day, a battle against the hidden agendas designed to deceive and divide us. Each day, I wrestled with the fear that came from acknowledging my awakening. It felt as if I was walking a tightrope stretched over a chasm of uncertainty. My colleagues, my community, and even some members of my family were steeped in traditions that often discouraged questioning and dissent. I could feel the weight of their expectations pressing down on me, mixed with dread about how they would react to my newfound truths. The elite, I realized, wielded influence over our belief systems, spinning webs of deception that obscured love and unity. It was heartbreaking to think that so many were trapped without even knowing it. One evening, I sat in my dimly lit office, poring over scripture, desperate for clarity. The air was thick with the tension of my thoughts, and just as weariness began to overwhelm me, the light began to flicker in my mind. I remembered the radiant vision of Jesus as he called my name, his voice slicing through the fog of confusion and despair. He revealed the tragic paradox we lived in, a world where truth is obscured by fear, where faith can be twisted into a weapon of division rather than a bridge of love. Each revelation felt like a call to arms, a reminder that I was not just an observer, but a participant in a spiritual war one could no longer ignore. The urgency pressed upon my heart as I contemplated the implications of spreading this message. I imagined the conversations I could have with those seeking understanding, those who quietly doubted, yet felt the need for something more profound. Yet in the same breath, I feared the consequences of that bravery. What would my colleagues think? Would they shun me, or worse, would they accuse me of abandoning my faith? Those questions lingered, but I understood that to remain silent was to allow the deception to thrive. Awakening was meant to inspire action, and I could no longer afford to withhold the truth that had illuminated my path. As I prepared to share my testimony, I envisioned a community built on love and understanding, a space where those seeking truth could gather without the fear of judgment. I was determined to advocate for my newfound beliefs, driven by a sense of purpose that transcended my personal fears. The spiritual war may be daunting, but with every step forward, I felt the collective strength of the awakened, ready to challenge the narratives imposed upon us. As I readied my heart to reach beyond my comfort zone, I knew deep down that the journey was only beginning, and the need to share the truth felt like an unstoppable force guiding me into a new chapter of my life. Embracing a new dawn in my life, I knew deep down that it was time to leave my old identity behind. My name is Khalid Ahmed, and as a professor at the University Mosque in Oxford, I had spent years fostering discussions around faith and meaning. However, after my encounter with Jesus, everything I once stood for began to shift. The revelations I experienced unveiled a spiritual war that had long raged within my heart and soul. The truth I found was a lighthouse guiding me through the murky waters of deception. Yet its illumination came with the heavy burden of severing ties with my past. The decision to change my name and redefine my identity was not made lightly. I had always believed that my name, my root, was an integral part of who I was. But as I embraced this new spiritual awakening, I realized that true freedom required shedding the layers that constrained me. The fear of the backlash from my family and community loomed large, but in the face of that fear, I felt a surge of courage. The emotional toll of living a double life had become unbearable, and I longed for authenticity. I wanted to evangelize the message Jesus had imparted to me, spreading love and awakening others to the truths they might be blind to. As I took those first steps into this new identity, I felt an immense sense of liberation, even amid the suffering that loomed over me. Each day was filled with both excitement and trepidation, as I actively sought out opportunities to connect with those who were also searching for deeper spiritual truths. I began attending meetings with fellow believers who had turned from their pasts, and together we formed a community grounded in openness and acceptance. In these gatherings, we strengthened one another, sharing experiences and knowledge that fueled our collective awakening. With newfound purpose, I took it upon myself to share my testimony widely. I began holding workshops and speaking at local events, recounting my journey in the hopes that others could find the freedom and clarity I had discovered. The urgency behind my message was palpable. I spoke candidly about the hidden agendas woven into our society, the ways the elite manipulated perceptions to maintain their power and sow division among us. This spiritual awakening was crucial, not just for those lost in their own beliefs, but for the very fabric of our communities that needs mending. While the journey has been daunting, the rewards have far outweighed the risks. I frequently reflect on the conflicts between my old life and my commitment to this truth. I've faced rejection and misunderstanding from my past community, but as I've shared my insights, I've seen eyes open, hearts soften, and a longing for understanding ignite in many. I stand firm in my dedication to advocate for love and connection, driven by the love of Jesus that continues to fill my heart. Though I still carry the weight of isolation from my family, my mission is clearer than ever, and I'm committed to walking this path of awakening, no matter the cost. Years have passed since that pivotal moment when my life was irrevocably altered. I'm Khalid Ahmed, and as a professor of Islamic studies at Oxford, my journey has taken me beyond academia and into the realm of spiritual discovery. After my encounter with Jesus, I dedicated my life to helping others find the spiritual freedom that I had long sought and nearly lost. Each day I stand before students and community members, sharing my testimony and the truth I discovered. Watching people awaken to new possibilities has been both a privilege and a calling, yet the hope of reconciling with my family lingers in my heart like a distant melody. Reflecting on the past, I remember how heavy the weight of tradition felt. I taught my classes with conviction, yet the emptiness inside me grew harder to ignore. It all changed during that life-altering moment in the ICU, where I drifted into a state between life and death. In that darkness, when I encountered Jesus, I was flooded with revelations that challenged everything I believed. He unveiled the hidden agendas of the elite and how they manipulate faith to sow division and maintain control. The understanding that the spiritual war was not just personal, but a collective struggle for truth now shaped my mission moving forward. Since then, I've embraced the role of a messenger, advocating for love over fear and understanding over division. Each conversation about faith is a step toward clarity for those still grappling with the confines of their beliefs. I've dedicated myself to creating safe spaces where people can explore their doubts, share their stories, and journey together toward awakening. Through workshops and discussions, I'm reminded daily of the importance of community. We are all intertwined in this spiritual war, and it's vital we support one another in our quests for truth. However, the grief of estrangement from my family is a constant ache that I can't ignore. As I navigate my new identity, I often reflect on the life I left behind, the traditions, the connections, the love that shaped me. I wish for reconciliation, for them to understand the spiritual awakening that has filled me with such purpose. I know the fear of my new beliefs has created a rift. The thought of being branded a heretic by my loved ones continually plagues me. Yet, I can't deny the truth that has set me free, nor can I ignore the calling to help others escape similar binds of deception. With every revelation, I feel both the weight of responsibility and the exhilarating freedom that comes from living authentically. I am committed to encouraging others to question what they've been taught, to look beyond the surface into the depths of their hearts where the truth resides. As I share my journey, I'm continually inspired by the courage of those around me, ready to confront the spiritual war that is fought not only within our souls but within the fabric of society. In this pursuit of truth, I find strength and hope, propelling me forward on this path of awakening, ever eager to see what lies ahead and how my story can touch the lives of others. As I navigated the respectful atmosphere of the mosque at Oxford University, a sense of confinement slowly seeped into my soul. I'm Khalid Ahmed, a professor of Islamic studies, respected by my peers and students alike. Yet underneath my outward devotion lay a profound emptiness, a disquiet that grew with each passing day. My life revolved around Islamic teachings, but the more I immersed myself in doctrine, the more I felt stifled, like a bird in a cage. I began to question the very essence of my faith and my place within it. One evening, while preparing for a discussion on theological principles, a sudden wave of despair washed over me. I felt a deep void, as if my prayers were swallowed by an oppressive silence. I had often heard that prayer was a conversation with God, but my words felt futile, as though they were cast into an endless abyss without hope of return. That night I fell into a troubled sleep, plagued by dreams of a brilliant light that beckoned me from afar. The light pierced through my anguish, promising liberation from the chains that bound me to my ideology. Then, in a moment that would forever change the course of my life, I slipped into unconsciousness and crossed the threshold into a reality that transcended my understanding. I found myself enveloped in a warm, radiant light, and there stood Jesus, illuminated by compassion and love. Khalid, he called, and hearing my name from such a divine source filled me with an overwhelming sense of peace. In that moment, the burdens of my reality faded, replaced by a revelation that would reshape my understanding of spirituality and truth. He began unveiling the hidden agendas of the elite, how they manipulate faith and leverage deception to maintain control over our lives. Jesus revealed the spiritual war that exists beyond our limited perceptions, exposing the societal structures that suppress genuine connection and understanding. I saw how fear and division are wielded as weapons, designed to keep us from experiencing the fullness of love and the truths that bind us all. These revelations pierced through the fog of my confusion, igniting a flame of purpose within me. I understood that this awakening was not solely for me, but a pressing call to help others who were similarly ensnared by ignorance and misunderstanding. Emerging from that encounter, I awoke in the mosque, shaken yet transformed. The walls that once felt so confining now echoed with the promise of awakening. I knew I could no longer remain silent about the truths I had unveiled, despite the risks of ostracization from my family and community. I faced the daunting challenge of sharing my testimony, of standing firm against those who might label me a heretic for my beliefs. Yet in my heart, I felt an urgent calling to advocate for the truth that Jesus had revealed to me, to illuminate the path for others lost in the shadows of deception. The weight of this mission pressed down on me, but I was ready to embrace the fight for spiritual freedom and love, knowing that the journey ahead would be fraught with challenges yet filled with immense possibility. As I stand here, reflecting on this incredible journey, I must ask you, have you ever felt that nagging question deep within your soul, urging you to seek beyond the confines of tradition? In the quiet moments, as you navigate life's challenges, do you ever wonder if there's a greater force calling you towards something more profound? I found that light. Jesus beckoned me into a truth that shattered my understanding and revitalized my spirit. And I stand here, urging you to explore your own spiritual awakening. The world around us is steeped in shadows, masked by deception that seeks to keep us divided and complacent. As I learned through my encounter, the spiritual war rages on, and it allows the elite to manipulate faith and fear to maintain their power. Yet amidst this struggle, we find hope in genuine connections, love that transcends barriers, and the power of truth. You too are part of this journey, and your awakening is essential to heal the collective wounds we share. Now it's your turn to share with us. Have you encountered a moment that compelled you to question your beliefs? Or perhaps a revelation that changed your outlook on life? Your insights matter. Share your story in the comments below. Together, we can create a space where truth is shared openly and understanding flourishes. And if you resonate with this message, I invite you to subscribe to Truth from Beyond and hit that notification bell. By joining our community, you'll ensure you don't miss out on the upcoming revelations that could guide you toward your own spiritual freedom. What's coming next is just as vital as we continue to peel back the layers of deception that mask the truths of our existence. As we journey together in truth and love, know this: you are not alone. I'm Khalid, and I'm grateful for your presence in this sacred space. Remember, true awakening requires courage, and together we can light the path for one another. Until next time.